Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our 1080 LinkedIn Live, our career insights LinkedIn Live session. This is the big one, everyone. I am delighted to say that not only am I joined by the main man himself, Michael Moran, uh, founder of 1080, but we're also talking about this bad boy. Michael's new book, which will be hitting all good bookshops very, very soon. And we're here today because we're going to launch it into the greater wide world. So, Michael, perhaps introduce yourself first of all before I get the Spanish Inquisition going about your new book. Perhaps introduce yourself first of all.
Well, thanks, Dean. Appreciate the opportunity to promote the book. Michael Moran, Chief Executive of 1080. My background is as a HR professional. Worked both in the public and the private sector, latterly in financial services. Always believed on sort of managing my own career. So moved from HR into operations management, got myself an MBA, and then decided I would like to run a business, but run a business that did something which I was passionate about. And career coaching, executive coaching is what I've spent the last 15 years doing, running two businesses. And for those who don't know, we founded 1080 back in 2012. Indeed, we launched that with my first book, The Guide to Everlasting Employability. And here we are, almost 14 years later, publishing my second book, Going Portfolio.
Brilliant, thank you. Now, I know, Michael, when we were talking about this session and we were talking about that first book in 2012, you described it as there seemed to be sort of manuals for outplacement, and you described it as being almost like your 1080's manual for that at that time. I'm really curious about. I'm going to bring my first question onto the screen because I pre-warn you, Michael, I've got some questions already penned to ask you. My first one is, well, what was the motivation to write this book then?
And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story, Dean. And I want those people listening, particularly if you're thinking of going into a portfolio career, to recognize that not everything in life goes as you would plan. So if we go back now, something like 3 or 4 years, myself and my partner Liz Seabag, we sort of had this sort of idea that portfolio careers were going to become more popular, but in particular, we were thinking in the legal profession. And in the legal profession, as you know, you get partners, and there's always a time when legal organizations need to part company with the senior aging partners. And they need to do it very diplomatically with sensitivity, because they want the clients that the partners had responsibility for. Equally, they've got the new emerging partners coming through, so they need handover. But as you'd probably anticipate, a partner in a little law firm thinking of retiring isn't going to go into traditional pipe and slippers retirement. In fact, typically it's going to be age, say, 55 and 65. And these people are going to want to sort of do something next. And do something next might look like consultancy, remunerative work, or a fixed term contract, but equally time for putting things back, maybe time for themselves. And so we hit on this idea and created this product called the Platinum Career Coaching Program. And we created a lovely brochure to go with it, and we took it around the legal profession and had very nice sort of feedback. And that was the idea that we will create the book, and the book will supplement the program. I started off by saying not all things work, and you need to expect as you go on this journey, some things won't work. This one didn't work. Almost couldn't give the Platinum Career Coaching Program away. We sold a couple, but by and large, we didn't. And that also explains why it took me over 3 years to write the book, because having started with the initial enthusiasm and got most of the copy out. And I was very fortunate because I now work with quite a number of people who made that transition into portfolio careers. And if you look at the book, you'll see there's a whole series of interviews with them. But because the product wasn't selling, I'm afraid I didn't really have the enthusiasm to finish the book. I'm also going to say, a little bit like my first book, and if anybody who's written a book, by the time you've read it 5 or 6 times, you're totally fed up of it. And in fact, you start changing things that you changed in the second draft, then you delete it in the third draft, and you can put them back in the fourth draft. So there was that piece around, but fortunately, Liz was very good. She nagged me constantly, and with the help of people like Sean Harrington, who did a fantastic job in sort of doing the editing of it for me. Eventually, we've got there, and it will now be published early October, I'm told.
Brilliant. I must admit, when I was reading it, and thank you for sending me an advance copy, that was very kind. But when I was reading it, I did think, I'm not sure if Michael's not talking about me here, which is good because it means it's hitting the spot. My next question, I think, will probably help to really clarify for lots of people that are listening live or watching us on catch up, and really to explain, well, what this portfolio career, this terminology, what is it? What do we mean by that? Perhaps you could help sort of clarify that for us, if you would.
And I suppose most people's expectation of a normal career is that you work for an employer. Certainly today, the odds are you're going to work for several employers over a period of, say, 40 years. But a portfolio career, in its essence, is that you are your own employer. You are your own boss. And indeed, what I've discovered, and certainly when people have had successful careers in corporate life, they often reach a point in their life where they say, well, you know what? I really want to be in charge. I want to determine how I spend my time. And indeed, I don't want to be reporting to a third party. So, first of all, it's very much about managing yourself, managing your career. It typically has 3 very distinct components. One would be spending some time getting remunerated for your expertise. Now, that could be as a non-executive director or an advisor to a business or even an investor in a business, actually maybe as a coach mentor to this business. But it's a dedicated amount of time, and it's working on the or selling, if I were marketing, the expertise and the knowledge you have. The second facet tends to be, well, actually, having been successful in my career, I would like to put something back. So that often tends to be working with not-for-profits, charities, foundations. And it can be a role using your existing expertise. Let's say I can think of legal people I've worked with who now aid the charities, giving them good governance. But it may even be doing something which requires you to learn new skills, like, dare I say it, revenue generation, targeting people to generate, or even participating in doing what the charity does, i.e., hands-on. It can be, I don't know, it's animal conservation or environmental conservation. Again, a dedicated amount of time to spending your time putting things back to the community. And the third element, and I'm going to say often, which gets squeezed if you're not managing it properly, which is time for yourself. And time for yourself might mean going on holiday. It might mean playing golf. It might be writing a book or whatever. But it's very much around, I am going to do things. It may lead to remuneration, but more likely it's around doing what I want to do. And certainly today, with the advent of bucket lists, it's very common that third element is ticking off things in my bucket list. Does that help you?
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant. I think it's really helps to clarify to people, because I think people will be watching, listening, and thinking, oh, that sounds like me. That sounds like the step that I'm at. And I think that really helps us to start to begin to understand, well, who's the book for? But probably more specifically then is, how can it help them then? If I'm at that stage where I'm thinking this is what I want to do, I want more time to pursue some hobbies and interests, as well as giving something back, all the things you've said. How can the book help me to achieve that, do you think? This is the key selling bit, Michael.
Okay.
Strap yourself in for this bit.
Well, first and foremost, I want to acknowledgement to the work of Lacey Cooper. Lacey, who's designed the book and most of the content, or the format of content, she's put in there. And if you look at the front cover, it says full of practical advice. And although the working title is Going Portfolio, it says how to build a portfolio career move by move. So what I'm going to say, and those people who know me and my career coaching, I'm a very structured career coach. I have a particular methodology, and I take people through that in how to get a job. And now what I'm doing here is doing exactly the same thing to how do you create a portfolio career. And so it really starts with that piece around that self-understanding in terms of what it is that motivates me, what it is I like doing, and most importantly, what I'm good at. Because that constitutes how you should spend your time in a portfolio career. Having done that piece of self-analysis, it's then and fundamental to generating whether remunerated or non-remunerated work is how you A, get your network on message, but B, how you use that network to facilitate introductions. So again, there's a very structured piece around that. In effect, for a lot of corporate executives, the next phase of this is this sort of marketing and winning business. And I sort of hold your hand as you do that. But equally, there's things around, for example, how you manage your time. Remember, you're not going to have the corporate expertise to call the IT help desk or talk to, see the finance. So managing your time, getting your cash in. So it's very practical in terms of the steps you need to take. And surprise, surprise, heavily focused on how you create that brand, how you create brand awareness. So step by step, starting from first and foremost, what is I like doing and I'm good at, and walking you through all the way through till you get to that point of I've launched my business, and now I'm getting business coming to me as a result of all my hard work.
Okay. And I would say to people that actually the book is for anybody who's thinking about embarking on a portfolio career, but also those people that are at the midpoint or in the process of, or have already on that journey, because of that sort of, if you like, timeline of things to do. It really helps, because I found myself looking at it and thinking, well, I did that. Oh, I didn't do that. Perhaps I should do this. And I remember Michael and I have known each other for not quite as long as 1080 have been going, but not far short of that. And I remember saying to you, Michael, you might not remember this. I remember saying to you once, I've been really lucky with where I've got to with my portfolio career. And you said, no, it's not luck, Dean. You've invested in your network. And I think that's one of the key aspects in the book that really, really came to life for me, because I was seeing all of those helpful suggestions that you made to me. I was seeing them in there, and I could, it was great to see them. So my advice is, anybody, whatever step you are on your portfolio career journey, there's definitely something in the book for you. And I can promise you, I'm not on commission, everybody. I'm just pointing out some really good bits. I think
so before you go, Dave, so I'm going to say there's two things. It is written from the perspective of somebody who's thinking of starting a portfolio career and walking through step by step. But I would also like to think that for individuals who've made that step, you can, as you suggest, go in at a chapter and say, oh, how am I doing this? Or have I done that right? Or what ideas does Michael have around that? So it is for those thinking of and helping them step by step, But if you're already on a portfolio career, I would like to hope it's a good check-in into, are you doing the right things? Which comes back to the point you've just made. When I say it's not luck, it is about doing the right things. And one of my favorite films is Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. And he talks, if you build it, they will come. Trust me, in a portfolio career, if you build it, it will arrive.
Yeah. And I think it's great advice, which does lead me into a real great segue of my next question, which is, what advice then would you give to anyone who's thinking about embarking on a portfolio career, apart from buying the book and reading it, of course? Yeah. What advice would you give?
The first thing is that piece around understanding. There's an issue here. Sometimes there are things that you do and you do relatively well, and maybe you've got paid for in the past, but you no longer enjoy, or you never enjoy doing them. Portfolio career is not about doing that. So it's not about doing anything in the sense of I can do remuneration, or I can spend my time with this charity using my core skill set, if you don't like using your core skill sets. So I go back to the first and foremost is that understanding in terms of how you want to spend your time. At a very early stage, you should do some test marketing. You should talk to 2 or 3 people that you know very well and who know you, and talk them through your portfolio career. And not necessarily from a point of view of, is this possible? Can I get remunerated work? Or are there charities looking for what I'm doing? But in that frank conversation, does this sound like me? I'm going to give you a good illustration, Dean. A lot of people see portfolio careers with being a non-executive director of a company. And of course, you do have to work to a certain status to become a non-executive director. Indeed, Charles Heinsohn, who's contributed books, makes the point you tend to work at one level below what you achieved in your career. So let's say for a minute we're talking about C-suite executives, chief executive officer, chief financial officer. What I've discovered is when those people get non-executive director roles, they're very often quickly become very frustrated, because as the name implies, as a senior executive, you're used to taking decisions. As a non-executive director, you're not. You're counseling, you're mentoring, you're giving wise advice. And at the same time, you've got a whole series of statutory obligations, which, if the organization doesn't go well, there's a real issue in terms of your reputation. And yet, you can't tell the chief executive what to do. And so I go back to this point very early on, is what I'm trying to do, does it sound like something that is going to suit me well? And that honest conversation of, you know what, Michael, I just don't see you as someone who's going to give advice. You're going to want to make decisions. So having that feedback early on is really important.
Yeah.
The next piece we've talked about is, if you've done that test marketing and the feedback is positive, yes, we believe this is doable, then it's about getting as many people on message as possible. And I'm going to say the vast majority of people I meet who want to establish a portfolio career come not market ready, i.e. they've spent far too much focusing on their existing company and doing an excellent job for it, but haven't taken time to build up relationships outside. Or if they have, they've seen them very transactional when they need them. And therefore, the good news about a portfolio career is it takes time to generate. So one of the key things in the book is you don't suddenly say, I'm going to have a portfolio career. It's something you think 3-5 years beforehand. And one of the key things there is therefore building a network, starting getting on message, but making that level of investment. Because if you invest in those people, there will come a time when they will help you achieve what you want to achieve. And I repeat, most people, and certainly my experience of working with senior executives, when they come out of an organization, they have a very narrow network. It's a very close group. And for a portfolio career, particularly if you're going to make, let's say, transformation into the not-for-profit sector, you need a wide network. And you need people who not only are eyes and ears, but people who are on the lookout and will help you.
And we've had a couple of comments come in while we've been talking.
Okay.
One I'm going to let's bring onto the screen here. You'll like this one. It's actually Sean Harrington has said, thank you, Michael, for the recognition. Well done, Liz Seabag, for pushing him forward all these years. So much great insight and many practical lessons in the book that I know will help that both those thinking of starting a portfolio career, also useful for people already down the road. So I'm glad to see the light of day. Anna has said, I'll be recommending this to others. Personally wish it had been in existence a few years ago. Anna, I'm right with you on that one. So all that procrastination of not writing it, Michael, the message there is next time, pull one's finger out sooner and get it done. I've certainly found the power of the network invaluable when moving to a portfolio career. I'd agree with that as well, Anna. Also having faith to build it, and they will come, as you say, Michael, because it can be quite scary when you start to imagine the possibilities. So a couple of really good comments there. And Olivier has said, intrigued to understand the new book. So some great questions. Now, my next question after the one we've been talking about is around some top tips to make it happen. But I'm going to go off a little tangent now and ask you a couple of off the cuff ones, if I may. I'm curious to know, we've talked about how long did it take to write a little bit, because there was a bit of a pause, and I'm guessing at times because the platinum product wasn't doing what we expected it to. This manuscript was probably sat in the corner somewhere, and you kept looking at it as if to say, "Oh, not you again." But was it hard to decide what to put in and what to leave out? I'm always curious about that with writing.
It wasn't gathering dust, by the way, because it was on my PC, filed under the Platinum program. And it was that Sean and Liz who. The other person I have to give credit to is Helen Menhennet, because between the two of us, we then did decide what goes into it. And you probably imagine either having written a first draft or spoken to Helen, she would write it, I would look at it again, we'd go back and rewrite it. So I'll give you a good example. At a very early stage, the book is very much aimed at people, let's say, mid to late 40s, early 50s, who are thinking at some stage of a portfolio career. Well, of course, in today's economy, we've got a whole group of people who effectively are working for a whole series of employers. So they have a portfolio of this. And I do remember we had an intern working with us called Doug Reynolds. And Doug sort of said to me one day, and he said, Michael, I'm a bit concerned I don't appear to have a career. I said, well, what do you mean, Doug? He said, well, I work for you, and because he's an IT website guy. I've got a couple of other clients, and it's all very well, but what direction do I need to take, or how do I find out where my career is going? And so Helen and I had a big debate around, should we include a chapter for people who are at an early stage of their career and who might think creating a portfolio of clients would be a good idea, and maybe at this stage they're less interested in giving back, but certainly changing one's mindset as opposed to working for one employer. Is it possible to sell my skills to a whole series of employers? And that's why that chapter got added in. So that was the iterative process of writing the book.
Okay, it's interesting because I remember speaking to my wife when she was thinking about changing direction in her career, and I said, you are a little bit contained by the notion of having one employer. And having this sort of hyphen approach where you are this hyphen that, where you are doing more than one thing, and maybe more than one different business or organization that you're working for. What's your favorite bit in the book, your favorite section?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Before I go to favorite, can I say one other thing that and in a sense, why I think it's good the book has been delayed, because we're in a moment of time in terms of the world of work that's representing fundamental change, and driven by COVID and remote working, and in particular, the stark choice between a corporate life and work-life balance. Those two things, remote working, work-life balance, have changed a lot of people's perception of how they want their career. And so consequently, I think this ability with the technology to work for a series of employers and not necessarily be wedded to one is increasingly popular. And that's part of what I'm tapping into. Yes, it's very evident as people come towards the end of the career, but I think we are going to see more people. Certainly, the trend we've seen is people now move jobs more frequently than ever before. I'm thinking we're going to see a trend where people have more employers than ever before.
Yeah.
Favorite part of the book? That's a very good question. I'm going to say getting to the end of it. Now, I like the section on sort of building networks. Lacey did something very clever on a couple of the exercises we did using playing cards. So I like visually. I like the book.
Yeah.
So the content, having seen it 1,001 times, I'm afraid it's whatever it is. But I do like the way that Lacey has made the book. I should also make reference to the cartoons, because James Mellor's done an excellent job. We used him in the first book. When I'm reading a book, I mean, page and page of text, even if it's really inspiring, I think it's hard. So I like the cartoons. I hope the readers do, whether they find them funny or not.
I like the cartoons. If you don't mind, I'd quite like to say what my favourite bits are. There's a couple of bits. One is the very, very early statement or comment that careers are too important to leave in the hands of others. I really like that. Really, really spoke to me. And you mentioned about the playing cards, and there's two bits that I really liked. And I'm thinking about coaching here. My practice of coaching is I love the playing cards idea of showing your values, and I also like the dominoes that show your skills. And I have to say, I'd really like a virtual copy of them or a physical copy to actually use in coaching practice. So there's a little add-on product that you can develop there that I think would be really good.
And that's all down to Lacey. I mean, she read the text and then came up with the idea. And Lacey is very creative with using dominoes and playing cards.
Lacey
we were going to use Monopoly, but we're slightly fearful of copyright issues. So the first draft had a Monopoly board, but we've moved away from that.
Okay. Lacey can probably expect to get a email from me saying, can I have a digital copy of these then at some point?
And of course, Lacey has got a portfolio career.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So before we conclude, I can't believe the time's nearly up on us already. What's your top tips to make it happen then for somebody who's thinking about portfolio career? What's your top tips to help them make it happen?
So I'm going to give you three. The first one is create the time to think about this before you do anything in the execution phase, i.e. spend time, create the time as to, and in career coaching, we use a thing called visualization, don't we, Dean? And what you need to do is take yourself out of your normal environment, sit in the park, sit in the library, give yourself a good hour, maybe 2 hours, and think, what is your life going to look like in 5 years' time when you've successfully launched this portfolio career? I.e., how have you spent the last few days? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Tip one. Tip two is that piece of, always do the things you love doing. And by the way, because you love doing them, you'll get good at them. So absolutely think about the things that really generate you. Again, in career coaching, we use the concept of flow. Think about a time when you've been doing something and you suddenly think, oh, gosh, it's already 4:15. Where did that time go? That's what you should be doing in your portfolio career.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, and the importance of the network, that really take a perspective of not what others can do for me, but what can I do for other people? And be curious about them, be methodical, collect the data coming out of that conversation, and use that to think about how might I help this person.
Yeah.
I believe you invest in helping people, in turn they will help you. By the way, as a matter of Michael's philosophy, if we all adopted that, the world would be a much better place. So those are my 3 things.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Sean's come back to us and said, partly answered this question, but do you think we'll see more people embarking on a portfolio career, especially with views of work changing, maybe even fewer opportunities for younger people coming into the workplace thanks to AI, etc.?
I'm absolutely certain the answer is yes. I think you will see employers being more employee-centric, i.e. building people around, jobs around people, I should say. But I still think today, because of the technology, AI, remote working, etc., because of, COVID did a great thing in terms of getting people to spend time with their families.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think we can close that door. I know there's a lot of people go on around. We need them back in the workplace. I want to be able to see what they're doing. AK, I'm not sure I trust them. I think that's really old-fashioned view, people. I really do. I think we are moving much more to a role where, if you really want to get the best out of people, make sure you create jobs around them until they do what they love doing when they want to do it. And that's why portfolio careers will increase.
Yeah, and I'm echoing that with, I can hear myself. The question I ask so many times to people is, what energizes you?
Yeah.
LinkedIn user, I'm going to bring us to a close, but I just wanted to bring this up on the screen that somebody said, thanks, Michael. I didn't know that a portfolio career was what I'm trying to build. So there's the first book sale. That's good. So just for everybody, before I say a final thank you to you, Michael, I just want to share with everybody, we've got another session coming up tomorrow in our insightful leaders session around leading with courageous integrity. And next week in our career insights, we've got working with rheumatoid arthritis as our topic. I want to say a huge thank you, Michael, for joining me today, sharing us with these fantastic insights about the book, which I can't recommend highly enough. I'm going to put it in front of everybody one more time. It's been great. I can't believe the time's gone so quickly. So thank you ever so much, my friend.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it, Dean.
Bye for now, everyone, and we'll see you again on another session in the future.